All right, moving along with number 14. It's a proof. We've got a diagram here, and then we've got our given statements that AB, the distance from A to B is equal to the distance from C to D. And then I also know that the distance from B to F is equal to the distance from F to C. And we want to prove that segment AF, which is this segment here, is congruent to this segment here. These are equal length. All right, so let's get started with something we've done before. Since these are two equal, I can take the AB and equal to CD, and I want to add the same thing to both sides. And since BF and FC are equal, I'm going to add BF on this side and FC on this side. And I can do that because of the addition property of equality. Okay, and then to solve this, the next thing I want to do is, I know that if I take AB and BF and I add those together, then that's equal to AF. Okay, part plus part equals whole, so that's what we're going to write. AB plus BF is equal to AF, and then FC plus CD is equal to FD, and that is what we called the segment addition postulate. Okay, and since AB plus BF is equal to FC plus CD, and I know that AB is plus BF is AF, and FC plus CD is FD, I can substitute to say that AF, the distance from A to F, is equal to the distance from F to D by simply using substitution. And then if the lengths are equal, I know that the segments are congruent. That's the definition of congruent segments. Okay, and so our proof is done on number 14. All right, number 15 is another proof. This time I got two angles, and I know that I'm told that those two angles are supplementary, and we want to show that the measure of angle 2 is actually 25 degrees. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to take, since I know that they're supplementary, that means I want to interpret that to say the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to 180 degrees. And my reason for that is the definition of supplementary angles. That's how we define that. Okay, and I know that the measure of angle 1 is equal to 155 degrees because that was given to me. Okay, which means that 155 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to 180 degrees. And that is going to be substitution. Okay, and then if I subtract 155 from both sides, I get that the measure of angle 2 is equal to 45 degrees. So this is going to be my reason of subtraction property of equality. All right, for number 16, I am told to look at this proof and figure out which of the reasons is not correct. All right, so looking at this, I'm told that N is the midpoint of MP, Q is the midpoint of RP, and I know that PQ is congruent to NM. All right, so I'm looking at this. This is my given statement, and all of those match up, so that's right. PN is congruent to NM, definition of a midpoint. That's what that means, that this side is congruent to this side. For number 3, it says PN, segment PN is congruent to segment PQ by the substitution property. This is the one that's going to be not correct. This is actually going to be the transitive property. Okay, and the reason it's the transitive property, not the substitution property, is because I'm taking these two statements here, and I'm taking the fact that PQ is equal to NM, and also PN is congruent to NM, these segments. So since they have that same segment NM that they're congruent to each other. So that's how I get PN is congruent to PQ, segment PQ. All right, so that's transitive property. Segment PQ is congruent to segment QR. That's true by the givens because Q is the midpoint of RP, so that's true. Here I'm saying that PN is congruent to PQ, PQ is congruent to QR, so that means PN is congruent to QR. This is another example of the transitive property, because I'm taking steps 3 and 4 and I'm basically combining them together because they share this same segment that they're congruent to. So if they're congruent to the same segment, they must be congruent to each other. So which of the reasons is not correct? It's the substitution property that is not correct. Okay. Now for number 17 and 18, it says which of the statements is not true? Angle 3 and 6 are alternate exterior angles. 3 is right here and 6 is here. That's not true because this should actually read alternate interior, since they're inside the two lines R and P. So this one is not true. But this kind of, since we're reviewing, you need to make sure that you know what linear pair is, corresponding angles, and consecutive interior angles. You've got to know those vocabulary words and how to identify them in a picture. Number 18 says in the diagram, segment EF is parallel to segment DG, and I want the measure of angle EBC, which is this angle here. All right, to do that, I know that I have two alternate exterior angles. So those alternate exterior angles are congruent. So I'm going to set it up as 18x minus 7 is equal to 3x plus 68. Solving for x, I'm going to subtract 3x and I get 15x minus 7 is 68. If I add 7 to both sides, I get 15x is equal to 75. And if I divide by 15, I get that x is 5. Remember what you're looking for. You're looking for angle EBC, which is this angle here. So I do need a substitute. I'm going to do 18 times 5 minus 7. Okay, and that's going to give me 90 minus 7, which is 83. And then I want this angle here, so I'm going to have to take 180 minus 83, and that gives me 97. So the measure of angle EBC is equal to 97 degrees.